gentlemen, welcome to yet another edition of the discursive program. It is a global insight proposed to you by Globus, and today we want to take focus again on the development in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and of course emphasizing on the latest deal signed in the United States of America by the foreign ministers of Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo, and a problematic thus they is asking if this is actually a deal for peace or a deal for minerals. The Democratic Republic of Congo, it should be noted, has been a focal point of conflict and instability in Africa over decades, particularly in its eastern regions where various armed groups operate. In a significant and somewhat diplomatic development, a peace agreement was brokered by the U.S. in the presence of Qatar, the African Union Commission Chair, and other stakeholders on June 27, 2025, between the DR Congo and Rwanda, represented by Foreign Minister Olivier Nduhungirehe of Rwanda and Teresa Kayikwamba Wagner of DR Congo, respectively. The accord aimed at resolving long-standing tensions and ensuring mutual respect for territorial integrity. It should be noted that both foreign ministers hailed the accord, defining it as a turning point which must be followed by a disengagement. However, while the rhetoric surrounding the deal emphasizes peace, the underlying motivations raise significant questions. Is Trump-led or the Trump-led administration truly a genuine step towards a sustainable peace, or merely a strategic move to assess critical minerals, given that a 2024 report revealed that the America is in dire need of resources, and thus emphasizing or reiterate the need to create more links and collaborations with African countries. Notably, the DRC is rich in vital resources like cobalt, tantalum, gold, and lithium, among others critical minerals that are essential not only for global technologies including smartphones and electric vehicles, but also for national security concerns and increasing competition with China. The United States, recognizing the urgent need for supply chain diversification, sees the Democratic Republic of Congo, according to report, and its mineral wealth as crucial for securing its technological and economic future. So together with a panel of experts, we want to analyze in total the implications of the recent deal that was signed between the foreign ministers of Rwanda and DR Congo in the presence of U.S. President Donald Trump and other stakeholders, actually wanting to answer the question if it is actually a deal for peace or probably for minerals, and of course the sustainability of this peace. Without much ado, we are going straight away to introduce the panel for discussion this year, and of course we are happy to welcome on this edition of Global Insight Her Excellency Clémentine SHAKEMBO KAMANGA, who is the Democratic Republic of Congo's ambassador for Poland and Hungary. Welcome to this edition of Global Insight, Madam. Please, you are muted. Can you unmute your mic? We'll be coming back subsequently to you.
Okay.
Let's now head. Okay, welcome, Madam.
Thank you very much, Madame Clarisse, for this invitation. And I'm very glad to participate to this television.
And of course, sure, we are most excited
Yes.
to have you share insight.
Yes, as you know that I'm not a native on English speaking, so I beg your pardon, I will switch in French if you agree with that.
Okay. That notwithstanding, looking forward to having a fruitful discussion with you, Your Excellency. Of course, you can always communicate in the language that you better, you feel very comfortable with. And we take you now to Rwanda. Let's acknowledge the presence of LIONEL NDITABIRIYE, who is editor and writer and of the Pan-African Review magazine. Karibu, LIONEL.
Murakoze. Thank you very much for inviting me.
It's always a pleasure. Looking forward to having a fruitful discussion. And to Moscow, let's welcome Professor Maurice OKOLI, Institute for African Studies and Institute of the World Economy and International Relations. It's a pleasure to have you once more on Global Insight. Professor OKOLI.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be in your program. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure as we seek to understand the analysis, of course, pertaining the recent deal that was received with some mixed reactions, and that's why we are looking at the topic, if the peace deal was actually for peace or for the need of minerals. Just to note that Dr. Charles Sinkala, who is an international relations expert, will join us subsequently alongside FIDEL AMAKYE AWUSU, who is also an international relations expert and also security analyst from Ghana, who will be joining us subsequently. Without much ado, we go straight away to having this engagement, first of all, with the ambassador of the Democratic Republic of Congo to Poland and Hungary. And Your Excellency, given the historical context of the conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo, what appraisals and how optimistic were you that this new deal, which was brokered by the United States of America, will lead Rwanda, between Rwanda and the DRC, will actually lead to a long-lasting resolution of the underlying tensions in the region?
Thank you very much for your question. But first of all, let me introduce myself. Do it in French.
Absolutely.
Avant toute chose, je souhaite saluer tous les amis d'Afrique qui sont tous des personnes formidables et que je suis régulièrement sur la plateforme du réseau. Je tiens à rappeler que je suis native de la République démocratique du Congo, un pays situé au cœur du continent de l'Afrique avec plus de 100 millions d'habitants, un pays doté de tous les minéraux se trouvant sur le tableau du scientifique Mendeleïev. Un pays qui a deux saisons, saison de pluie et saison sèche. Un pays qui est le deuxième poumon forestier du monde, avec un fleuve majestueux qu'on appelle le fleuve Congo. Ce rappel est toujours très important car c'est à partir de là qu'on voit les enjeux régionaux et internationaux qui se jouent sur notre territoire national. De toutes les façons, le potentiel humain de la République démocratique du Congo peut résoudre ses problèmes et ses conflits, à la seule condition qu'il n'y ait pas d'interférence extérieure. Pour le sujet d'actualité, c'est-à-dire la signature qui a eu lieu à Washington, D.C. le 27 juin 2025 et qui a donné un accord entre la République démocratique du Congo et la République du Rwanda, un accord que beaucoup ont qualifié d'un accord historique, revêt un caractère très pérenne. Alors, pour répondre à votre question, ou à toutes les questions qui sont supposées être soulevées au cours de ce forum, je voudrais vous rappeler, madame, que toutes les réponses sont bien stipulées dans l'accord qui a été signé le 27 juin 2025 par leurs excellences, le ministre des Affaires étrangères de la République démocratique du Congo et son homologue, de la République du Rwanda. Je vous assure que toutes les réponses sont dans ce contexte-là. Alors, si vous voulez qu'on débatte, cela veut dire que je dois à chaque fois me référer là pour avoir les termes exacts qui ont été déjà bien étudiés par nos responsables de la diplomatie du Rwanda et du Congo.
Excellency, of course, the terms were well spelled, but then we want to look at the feasibility of these terms because this is not the first time we are hailing a peace deal signed in line with what is happening in the Democratic Republic of Congo. What is probably the administration of the DRC doing to ensure, because we know that when President Felix Tshisekedi was addressing the nation as you celebrated the Independence Day some days ago, highlighted this peace deal and said it was the beginning of a new era for the people of, particularly in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. How feasible is this deal to ensuring sustainable peace and even that will transcend to the economic buoyancy of the region?
Ok, madame, l'accord a deux volets. Il y a le volet sécurité et le volet économique. Pour le volet sécurité, c'est ça la première étape. Et la première étape, comme je le disais tout à l'heure, nous sommes très optimistes. Cet accord de paix marque une rupture significative avec les échecs du passé. En grande partie, l'engagement de nos chefs d'État, suivi de l'engagement de nos ministres des Affaires étrangères, nous donne la force de croire que cette fois-ci est la bonne. Et après tant de guerre, nous sommes tous engagés pour que cet accord soit suivi de près. Les négociations parallèles à cet accord sont en cours, aussi bien en tenant compte des résolutions qui viendront du processus de Doha et en prenant compte les processus de Luanda et aussi la médiation des 5 de l'Union africaine. Donc nous sommes à 100% optimistes que cette fois-ci est la bonne.
Now let's look at the major actor that was actually present in the signing of this peace deal, which is very important, Your Excellency. We're looking at the role of the United States of America and particularly its president. We know his foreign policy stance in regarding Africa has been very problematic lately, but then we still see how concerned he is in probably ensuring that there is lasting peace in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Can we come now to assert that the U.S. has a more probably diverse interest in the region, as was stated in a report which I said was released in the year 2024, where they cited the need for mineral or rare earth metals to help the United States in the probably manufacturing of electric vehicles and other probably smartphones, and you can name the rest.
Oui, madame. Vous savez, chacun de nous occupe un poste. Et le profil d'un chacun, son background, influence beaucoup dans la façon dont nous accomplissions nos tâches au quotidien. Vous faites allusion à la présence du président Trump dans ce deal. Tout le monde sait que le président Trump, pour lui, America First. Et l'America First, c'est d'abord le niveau économique de l'Amérique. Et pour que le niveau économique de l'Amérique soit haut en ce moment de la mondialisation, de l'industrialisation, il lui faut des minéraux stratégiques. Et où est-ce qu'il peut trouver ces minéraux stratégiques? La réponse est là. Et pour y arriver, il faut apaisir les choses, il faut aplanir les avis d'un chacun. Voilà là où l'intérêt américain vient une fois de plus sauver le continent africain. L'Amérique n'a pas été un pays colonisateur, mais tout le monde sait qu'en 1885, à Berlin, l'Amérique était présente et avait son mot à dire lorsque l'Afrique a été émiettée en pays. Donc, il n'y a rien de surprenant qu'aujourd'hui, les États-Unis s'impliquent dans un processus qui a longtemps duré, dans une guerre sans fin, avec plusieurs déplacés de guerre, avec des millions et des millions de personnes décédées, des innocents pour la plupart. Donc il était grand temps que tous nous y mettons, et dès que le président de la République démocratique du Congo, son Excellence Félix Antoine Tshisekedi, a donné la voix aux minerais, et bien, la nouvelle a été acceptée à 100% et nous y sommes.
Okay. And this brings us to the reason why this peace deal was signed. If we are talking about this, we want to look at the vulnerable population which has suffered the consequences of the infighting for, 30 years and above. Now, Your Excellency, let's look at how this agreement emphasize the protection of civilians and somehow humanitarian personnel. What specific measures do you believe will be necessary to ensure, both from the side of the Democratic Republic of Congo and that of Rwanda, and also the third party, to ensure that the commitment translates into real security for the vulnerable populations amidst ongoing threats from non-state armed groups in this volatile region?
Oui, le grand problème lors des conflits, ce sont les populations, les pauvres, les jeunes. Quand vous êtes dans une situation de conflit avec des groupes armés, lourdement armés, et là, même le secrétaire général des Nations Unies l'avait dit, que les groupes armés qui sont à l'est de la République démocratique du Congo sont plus armés même que les armées régulières, ce qui était déjà une grande anomalie dans cette situation. Malgré les efforts que le gouvernement fait pour venir à la protection des jeunes, des femmes, des ouvriers, de toutes les catégories, les bandes armées sont là avec des armes lourdes. C'était une situation incomparable à quoi que ce soit sur la planète. Incomparable à quoi que ce soit sur la planète. Il fallait à tout prix trouver les moyens pour mettre fin à cela. Alors, combien de déplacés? Plus de 7 millions de déplacés à l'Est, dans des camps pauvres. Même l'accès des corridors est bloqué par les groupes armés. C'est vraiment une situation incomparable. Et nous en souffrons beaucoup, et c'est pour ça que tous nous sommes impliqués pour qu'il y ait la paix dans la région des Grands Lacs.
Indeed, talking about the need for peace in the whole Great Lake regions, we know that many regional organizations have been very concerned. We cannot undermine the negotiations which were happening in Rwanda, Angola. Let's now look at regional cooperation, because for this deal to go into probably great implementation and sustainability, there needs to be some sort of coherence or compromise and understanding among regional powers and blocs. So how will this agreement facilitate broader regional cooperation among East African nations in addressing security concerns, development, humanitarian concerns, and also at what point do you think there needs to be that compromise, be it diplomatically and politically, to ensure that the acclaimed peace deal in the United States of America can actually yield the desired fruits?
Yes, madame. Oui, madame. On va un peu reculer dans le temps pour comprendre que la région des Grands Lacs a eu à bien vivre il y a 40 ans. Les pays des Grands Lacs avaient une collaboration exemplaire. une intégration exemplaire. À l'époque, nous avions ce qu'on appelait la CEPGL, la Communauté des États des pays des Grands Lacs. Et cette structure a très bien fonctionné. Il y avait la banque de la CEPGL, il y avait les écoles, la fréquentation des écoles, les échanges des professeurs, même l'électricité était aussi dans ce programme et les populations vivaient à l'aise. Et dans cette communauté, le pays qui était le plus grand contributeur pour la structure, c'était à l'époque la République du Zaïre, actuellement République démocratique du Congo. Mais dès lors que les conflits de 1994 ont commencé, tout ça a cessé de fonctionner. Donc, si aujourd'hui, nous nous remettons ensemble pour le bien fonctionnement de la région, nous allons réussir, puisque chacun a compris d'où est venu le problème. Et maintenant qu'on ne peut plus revenir en arrière, nous nous engageons pour le futur, nous nous engageons pour le bien-être de tous les citoyens qui vivent dans l'espace des Grands Lacs. Et pour qu'on y réussisse, il faut qu'il y ait des sanctions. Il faut que ceux qui ont commis des crimes puissent... Nous ne pouvons plus jamais revenir dans ces pratiques qui ne sont pas acceptables au siècle actuel. Voilà.
Accountability and of course ensuring that the heart of Africa, which is the Democratic Republic of Congo, can sing a song of peace. The last question to you, Your Excellency, we are looking at taking the stakeholders accountable. When we're talking about this diplomatic decision that was taken, the signing of the deal between the foreign ministers of Rwanda and DR Congo, we also know that we have militia or armed groups fighting in these volatile region of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now let's look at the feasibility of probably how the stakeholders from both sides, that is Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo, ensure that they do align with the new peace deal and ensure sustainability of peace in the region. And to add to this question, what makes it so difficult for African leaders? We know, of course, that there have been efforts within the continent to solve this problem. For African leaders to embrace African solutions to African problems, that we have to probably see that the US is the one coming in to sign, to ensure that a peace deal was signed, knowing first of all the involvement of the United States and other countries in the crisis dating back to the 1960s, if we want to look at the history of the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Oui, madame. Vous savez, nous, les Africains, d'une façon générale, nous nous sentons toujours supérieurs vis-à-vis des autres. Quand nous avons une idée ou un schéma, c'est celui-là qu'il faut absolument appliquer. Alors que votre partenaire africain peut avoir une idée aussi géniale, il vous la propose, mais vous n'avez pas la facilité de vous en approprier et vous pensez que votre idée à vous est spéciale et que les circonstances de votre pays, l'environnement de votre pays vous donnera toujours raison. Et on s'est rendu compte que ce n'est pas le cas. Voilà pourquoi plusieurs accords, plusieurs tentatives de paix, surtout pour mon pays, depuis 1960, nous sommes toujours en proie à des situations très compliquées et pour la plupart, nous importer de l'extérieur, nous importer d'autres pays. Voilà une des raisons pour lesquelles on s'est tourné maintenant vers un pays qui a résolu pas mal de problèmes, qui a montré à la face du monde son niveau de développement, qui a montré à la face du monde son usage des matières premières, qui a montré à la face du monde que l'industrialisation est la clé du développement des pays. Voilà comment nous avons accepté la médiation des États-Unis d'Amérique. Alors, nous pensons aussi que nos dirigeants actuels ont compris la nécessité d'avoir la paix dans la région et je suis convaincue que de part et d'autre, toutes les possibilités seront mises en œuvre pour qu'il y ait une paix, non seulement une paix, mais une paix durable et que plus jamais nous nous retrouvions encore dans une situation de conflit, dans une situation de groupes armés, dans une situation où un pays X aide un groupe armé dans un autre pays, où un pays X héberge des génocidaires. Nous n'en voulons plus. Nous devons vraiment mettre fin à cela. Et pour ce faire, il y a des informations assez sensibles que je ne peux pas dévoiler ici dans le processus de désengagement, dans le processus de démobilisation, dans le processus de la neutralisation des forces négatives qui se trouvent de part et d'autre. Je pense que les techniciens en la matière, les militaires, les généraux sont à pied d'œuvre pour mettre en œuvre des mécanismes pour nous donner la paix et la paix au quotidien.
We need, and we also need intentional leadership to be able to have this peace, particularly in the heart of Africa. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for the insight pertaining this crucial topic, peace deal in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Indeed, just to note that according to plans, President Felix Tshisekedi and President Paul Kagame of Rwanda expected in Washington, probably in the month of July, to ensure that they finalize this peace deal conclusively. Your Excellency, what message do we have for the leaders of the two countries pertaining their vital role in ensuring the sustainability of this peace?
Yes, oui, je voudrais dire que, je répète, que chacun de nous devrait s'approprier l'accord qui a été signé le 27 juin à Washington, D.C. Tout est là-dedans. Si chacun lit correctement les 19 pages de l'accord et suit ce qui est recommandé, je pense que nous pouvons aujourd'hui acclamer et dire que la paix est déjà là.
Indeed, thank you so much, Your Excellency. We remain optimistic. Thank you for your time and thank you for making comments on Global Insight this day.
Merci beaucoup et je vous souhaite une bonne continuation dans les débats et nous espérons aussi que avec la paix, l'économie sera prospère et que chacun de nous va retrouver son compte. Merci à vous tous.
Thank you so much, Mbote, Madame. Of course, let's go to join our other guest just after the jingle, please.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, welcome back. If you are just tuning in, this is Global Insight, and of course, we are looking at the recent peace deal signed between DRC and Rwanda in the United States of America, and asking this very vital question: is it for peace or for minerals? Let's continue the conversation now, taking to Rwanda to meet Lionel. First of all, we would love to have your comments pertaining the analysis presented to us this moment by Her Excellency, the ambassador of the DRC to Poland and Hungary. What's your appraisal pertaining what she said, and holistically how you viewed the recent peace deal brokered by the United States of America, Lionel?
Well, I would say the peace deal is a step in the right direction. Necessary, but not enough. Why? Because we have two aspects to this conflict. There is the relationship between Rwanda and DRC, and then there is the conflict, the armed conflict between the government and the IFC M23 alliance. And this deal does not really address that second aspect of the crisis. So even coming back to the deal itself, I think that the main problem with it is that it lacks a permanent enforcement mechanism. Why do I say this? We've seen in the past joint military operations between the Rwandan army and the Congolese army. We've also seen rebels integrated into the Congolese army. So none of that solved the problem, because in my view, there is no real commitment at the administrative and military command level in the Congo to neutralize the FDLR. Kinshasa, until now, still views the FDLR as an ally. Its militias, the armed militias called Wazalendo, see the FDLR as partners. So for me, when we talk about a mechanism of joint military cooperation between Rwanda and Congo, the question you need to ask yourself is, how are you going to conduct joint military operations against an enemy that has informants, allies, friends in the Congolese army? So you cannot really effectively neutralize the FDLR even with those mechanisms, because the partnership is still there. Neutralizing that area, you need a political and military leadership that is laser focused on eliminating that threat. And for now, as we see things, the only administration that truly sees the FDLR as an existential threat, other than Rwanda, is the M23-led administration in those territories that it has taken. So in the end, much as we praise the Washington peace deal, for me, much will depend on the Doha process and whether Kinshasa is willing to recognize that the IFC M23 administrative and military control in the Kivu can be part of a solution and it is not a problem.
Preliminary analysis, I'll come back to you subsequently for more understanding pertaining what you said. While we go to Professor Maurice Okoli, first of all, having an appraisal given the explanation from the ambassador and his personal appraisal pertaining the July 27 peace deal in the United States of America. Can we say it's now, a dawn of a new era for the Eastern DR Congo, or there is still a lot to probably understand to ensure that we reach that point of real peace on the ground?
Thank you for the question. Unfortunately, I didn't understand what Her Excellency said, because I have poor knowledge of French language.
Okay.
However, the crisis between DRC and Rwanda has a deep historic root, stemming from ethnic tension, political rivalries, and the aftermath of the Rwandan genocide in 1994. This conflict has evolved through various phases, marked by significant wars and ongoing violence. For example, in 1994, Rwandan genocide, where Hutu extremists killed an estimated 1 million Tutsi, and moderate Hutus, had a profound impact on DRC. Following the genocide, many Hutu militants fled to eastern DRC. That led to increased tension and conflict in the region. Looking at it, there was a First Congo War, and that First Congo War was initiated by Uganda and Rwanda. That was meant to overthrow Mobutu, who was the then president of DRC. You know, that measure gave rise to Roland Kabila. You know, after some time, Roland Kabila leadership was dissatisfied by the people, and that dissatisfaction of Kabila rule sparked the Second War in DRC in 1998 to 2003, and that resulted in millions of deaths in DRC. Then around 2012, M23 rebel group appeared in the scene. From what I know, that M23 rebel group is believed to be backed by Rwanda. You know, after some time, they disappeared, only to re-emerge in around 2022. You know, and with renewed fighting, displacing thousands of people and even capturing territory. They were even talking of marching to the capital. You know, and with this situation, that has resulted in the government in the, I think, DRC to seek help, which I can say that help is out of desperation. Yes, I know many people are suspicious of the deal reached by America between Rwanda and DRC. People are asking whether the deal is a deal for peace or deal for minerals. Yes, that sentiment, you know, expressed is understandable, because that look like the similar things we've been seeing not only in DRC but in other African countries, whereby there is excessive, you know, exploitation, marginalization, and subjugation of African countries, you know, because of the wealth beneath their soil. What I will say here that it could be both. It could be a peaceful deal. At the same time, it could be a peace for mineral, and it could be for both. You know, it's left for, I mean, us to see what comes next, because most of the deal is really in secrecy. It's done behind the door. We don't know the details. What we are doing here might be a bit speculative or speculations, you know. But from what we know on what will happen in DRC, the minerals are being exploited, whether, you know, we want it or we don't want it, because people like Chinese and other countries, they've been busy exploiting those resources, you know. So looking at it, let's see what unfolds, what happened in this process.
In data, we look at what will become the next move in this process. In the same light, coming back to you, Lionel, when we're asking some of these questions, we put in mind some aspect like the diplomatic aspect, geopolitical aspect, and even that of a spheres of influence. With what you have highlighted and in line with Professor Maurice Okoyi, we want to ask this question. In your perspective, Lionel, given the complexities, what specific measures do you think needs to be implemented by the both parties to ensure that the DRC-Rwanda peace deal is not just you know, a facade for mineral exploitation, like some pundits have actually stated lately?
I think we have been stuck in a cycle for over 3 decades now.
Sure.
That started with the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. So at that time, Mobutu gave asylum to genociders. He refused to disarm them. He allowed them to turn refugee camps into training camps. He allowed them to launch. Rwanda reacted 2 years later, in '96, by supporting rebellion in the Congo. So we are stuck in that cycle for over 3 decades.
Sure.
The only way to resolve issues related to Rwanda and Congo relationships is that we need the neutralization of these genocidal forces on one side, and Rwanda will, of course, stop any support it might give to any rebellion in the Congo. But that's easier said than done. Again, I said there is no credible, permanent enforcing mechanism for this peace deal. And for me, if you don't resolve the issue of M23, they are going to backfire and cause a problem again in the relationship between the two countries. So for me, Doha is central and Washington was necessary. And if we are talking about anything relating to the exploitation of minerals, some of those minerals are in territories controlled by the M23. So the question is, how do you exploit those does not have control over them? And the other question is, how do you deal with the M23?
Absolutely.
And yes, and from the beginning, there were 3 processes. First, there was the Nairobi process, which the DRC government left because the leaders were telling the DRC government to talk to the M23, and at that time, it was a red line. We went to Angola, and Angola was primarily set up to address issues of relationship between Rwanda and Congo. And the conclusion was, we can't resolve this if we don't talk about the M23.
Absolutely.
And the Kinshasa refused again to talk to the M23. And then came the Doha process. And now the Doha process is addressing that issue. And that issue is central. So until that issue is resolved, I don't see a way out of this, a peaceful way out of this.
Can we now say that with some sort of certainty that the leadership is the problem in the Democratic Republic of Congo? Here we want to refer to Rwandan president who once said that the problem with the DRC is its leadership. Do you have the same viewpoint? And what do you think needs to be done or needs to work to ensure that we today talk of practical peace and not superficial peace for some sort of interest in the volatile region?
So I completely agree. And unfortunately, the leadership crisis, it affects both ordinary Congolese and neighboring countries.
Sure.
So corruption is rampant. It deprives citizens of public goods like security, that's the primary public good, healthcare, infrastructure, jobs. So these makes joining armed groups. The presence of these armed groups then fuels a refugee flows that creates a cycle where some feel the only path to change is through force. And the M23 is a clear example of this dynamic. And most importantly, from Rwanda's perspective, Rwanda cannot accept a government in Kinshasa that embraces the same genocidal ideology, that adopts the same talking points as genocide deniers, that incorporates the entire government into a threat. And we don't want the government in Kigali to consider that Kinshasa is a is an existential threat because this would escalate the situation. So we need to resolve this. And anyway, I think I've taken enough time. Maybe my colleague can complement me.
Is to ensure that we have clear understanding of the situation on the ground and see the feasibility of this new peace deal that has largely been hailed by many stakeholders within Africa, though it actually attracted some criticism as to why it is we cannot have an African solution to African problems. And that brings us to this the role of the African Union in the problems facing the Eastern DR Congo with you, Professor Maurice Okoli. You know, this peace deal was signed in the presence of the new African Union Commission chair. We even saw also the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Togo present. So what can explain the failure of the African Union together with regional blocs? We have SADC, we have the East African Community and other regional bodies that have been engaged in bringing some sort of compromise or collaboration and understanding to stem the conflicts which has made the Eastern DR Congo, which is rich, to be really susceptible, putting the local community in a state of uncertainty.
Thank you for the question. The problem plaguing DRC is not different from the problem plaguing so many African countries. In so many African countries, what you see is an intrastate and interstate rivalry, struggle for control of government, struggle for control of resources. Most times, the thing ends up into violence, into conflict. This gives a chance for outsiders to come and exploit, those resources. Like in Congo, like in DRC and Rwanda, what I can understand that is a bit fundamental in this problem is that it's also there's element of this arbitrary border about colonial oppressor. Because what I learned is that there are Tutsi who are living in DRC, and I believe that there is that sentiment that those Tutsi are not being treated as a bona fide citizen of DRC. It's not only in DRC and Congo. There are so many countries in Africa where you have such a, problem. For example, in between Benin Republic and Nigeria, in Benin there is a tribe called Yoruba. That in Nigeria, that also in Benin, and so many others. Because of arbitrary creation of border, Africa has not been able to manage this thing very well, especially the input of African Union, because actually because of the weakness of Africa in solving their problem. Yes, there is this illusion that African solution for African problem. Most of the time it doesn't materialize. There's always politics, always struggle, interstate, intrastate. That creates a problem. When you look at other continents, it doesn't happen, or even if it happens, it doesn't happen in that level. For example, Asia, Middle East, you see a little bit of stability. And with all these conflicts happening in Africa, there is no way development can come to Africa, because for development to come, there must be stability. For investment to come, there must be stability. So it's really a problem. Only that of Congo, DRC, and Rwanda is very explosive, because it has been on and on and on. For America coming into this problem, I think it's a positive. It's a positive impact, because looking at American administration of recent, they want those minerals in Congo. Those minerals, because those minerals are vital for electric cars, for battery for electric cars, for electronic industries, and for modern technology. if you realize the problem between America and China is partly that there is monopoly of China over those rare minerals. Now they have access to it in Congo in exchange of military assistance, which will involve military training, supply of military equipment, and even putting boots on the ground if need arises. That will make other players around the problem to sit up, because the America, they want those resources. They wouldn't tolerate any other other forces that would prevent them from getting that mineral after they might have signed the deal. I learned they made an offer to Rwanda, whereby they will, a kind of arrangement whereby some illegal immigrants deported from America will be housed in Rwanda. That is agreement, that is money. In fact, I think they will find a way out of it. I'm hopeful that with American involvement, there will be peace, at least peace. Because this violence that has been going affects human beings, especially children and women, displacement. How long will it continue? It's only in Africa. Yes, God gave us that resources, but it's unfortunate we can't manage it. Always, interstate, intrastate rivalries, different groups fighting to control the resources, to control the government, thereby kind of destabilizing the whole country. When you look at the 20 poorest country in the world, 19 of them are from Africa. Why is this so? These are the people who are living below $2 per day. It's not supposed to be so, because Africa as a continent is very rich. We have gold, we have diamond, we have these resources in Africa. The whole world needs it. Without that resources in DRC, modern industry will not, such a country supposed to be wealthy and rich. But when you go there, you see poverty. Even the government cannot provide for its citizens the basic things without which life becomes torment: clothing, shelter and food. Conflict, everywhere conflict. The African Union also is external interference, in their elections, finance. Sometimes they are not independent because some of these African organizations are being financed from outside, and those who finances it dictates the direction. In terms of finance, the member country, I don't think they pay their dues. So there are a lot of problems. Africa has to get their act together. Otherwise, what is happening this time around will be child play. Because when you look at the situation in the world today, things are so tough that each country wants to get one or two things for their own citizens. So there is a need for us Africans to sit up and know how we can, apply African solution to African problems, which is the laws of being, propagated by African Union.
For intentionality of just being informed of that, Your Excellency, the ambassador is still with us, and we are going back to her to understand the role of the USA. We just heard Professor MAURICE OKOLI hailing again that it was necessary that the US intervened in this process. So now, with you, Your Excellency, we want to look at the US diplomacy of mediation. In what ways does this US plan to stay engaged in the implementation, because we have concluded the first phase, which is the signing, now the implementation of the deal, and what forms of support will be critical in the early stages following the agreement indeed.
Okay, Madam, thank you once again.
Yeah.
I'd like to say that the most important today is not to say what's happening 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when the genocide came out of Rwanda and entered into DRC. it was a decision of international community at that time. At that time, they obliged the President Mobutu to accept them because member of the UN. Okay. Nobody at that time can imagine that those genocidaires who receive asile in the DRC will use their weapon to do what they did. They kill Congolese people in the DRC. People have to know that it's not only to fight against the regime who is in Rwanda, not only that. So, let me go back again what I said in the beginning.
Yeah.
Faisons confiance à l'accord. This accord a toutes les solutions pour neutraliser les FDLR, pour mettre fin aux groupes armés, pour attendre l'accord de Doha. Tout a déjà été dit ici. Faisons confiance à cet accord et nous verrons la suite sera bonne pour tout le monde. C'est ce que j'ai voulu dire. Parce que revenir encore à la situation de M23, revenir encore aux génocidaires, tout ça est réglé dans l'accord qui a été signé le 27 juin 2025 à Washington. Donnons le temps, il y a déjà même un chronogramme en termes de date. D'ici 3 mois, nous allons faire l'évaluation et voir ce qui ne va pas et corriger. On ne peut plus se donner encore le temps de condamner ce qui a été fait, de condamner ce qui se fait. La justice va faire son travail selon le chronogramme qui est établi dans l'accord de paix. C'est pour ça que nous disons que ça, c'est un accord historique qui va régler beaucoup de problèmes. Et sûrement, beaucoup de pays africains vont copier ce modèle pour résoudre les problèmes des conflits dans les différents pays. Merci et je crois que maintenant, je vais vous quitter.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the additional information, Your Excellency. But please do not go because we are looking at the role of the institutional bodies in Africa. When I listen to you, I see like there is like 100% confidence in the accord that we just had brokered by the United States of America, and that to an extent shows the lapses of African leadership. So what makes it so difficult that we cannot really have that concrete decision or peace deal in Africa? Is it because of the sphere of influence that has overwhelmed the Democratic Republic of Congo with many stakeholders with different interests in the region? How can we navigate this?
Oui, madame. L'accord a été rédigé par les experts du Congo, la République démocratique du Congo, et les experts du Rwanda. Ce sont des Africains. Donc,
but not on an African soil. It failed. We know what Rwanda has been doing. Angola.
Africains, nous, les Congolais et les Rwandais, mis sur la table, puis ont rédigé. C'est pour ça que tous les problèmes ont une solution en réalisant cet accord. L'Union africaine était là présente.
Absolutely.
Donc, so everybody can say that that's the final document for the peace in the DRC and the Rwanda and also in Africa. Everything is here, even la neutralisation des FDLR.
Sure.
Le processus est là-dedans. Tout est prévu. Au moment où nous parlons, chaque pays a déjà les personnes qu'il faut pour l'application de ceci. Toutes les personnes du côté du Congo, les généraux sont connus. Du côté du Rwanda aussi. Et en plus de cela, il y a aussi les experts américains qui apportent leur expertise. Faisons confiance à cela. Pour qu'une fois l'Afrique trouve au moins son bonheur et chaque Africain puisse avoir de quoi manger, comme l'a dit le professeur, c'est ridicule. C'est ridicule. $1 par jour pour vivre. Ça nous fait mal, nous les Africains, au vu des richesses que nous avons. Mais c'est une question d'organisation et de volonté. Et nous avons confiance en nous-mêmes, ça ira.
Okay, Indeed, Saira, thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. And we are looking at the way forward because peace is what we need. And if we are accentuating or resonating the need that Africans need not to probably use huge resources to just travel to sign a peace deal that can be signed in the continent or probably at the headquarters of the African Union. Coming back to you, Lionel, I would love that we accentuate on this particular aspect of peace and the fact that we give importance or relevance to a peace accord that is signed out of Africa. What is lacking? Is it the political will, or probably let's try to understand because this will help, like was stated already, help other African regions or countries in similar situations to navigate towards peace, which is very vital even for development, collaboration at internal and external or international level in every front.
Thank you very much. So, two things I would say. Africa doesn't have a common understanding of what is happening in Congo. There are those who support Rwanda's position and those who feel that DRC is under aggression from Rwanda. So because of that, even the African institutions have been transformed into battlegrounds between those two ideas. And we've seen a similar thing with ECOWAS, for example, where not all countries, member countries, agreed on what to do about coups in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, even in Guinea-Conakry. So we have this problem of not having a common understanding about issues affecting us. If we don't have that common understanding, logically, we don't come up with the same solutions. Second, we don't have a common interest. We have not defined that common interest to defend, and we find ourselves advancing the interest of others. So, for example, the failure of the Nairobi process, which was the most promising in my view because it advanced a peaceful resolution of the conflict. It had imposed a ceasefire for 6 months, and we were heading to a negotiated solution between the government in Congo and the M23 at the time. That failed. We went to SADC, and even within SADC, there were some disagreements. Only 3 countries sent their troops in Congo to help the government crush that rebellion. When that failed, then we went outside of Africa because Africans could not agree amongst themselves on what solution to apply to Congo. So we are our own enemies in this case. It means if we don't agree on what is our common interest, then someone else is going to take the lead and appear as the savior. That's my take.
Agree, someone else is going to come, and when someone else is someone else comes, there is also an interest, and that is why today we are focusing on this very problematic. We know that I think it was the Prime Minister of Ethiopia who highlighted, Abiy Ahmed, that the 21st century has actually seen an increase in some sort of a sphere of influence, especially among global powers, and what is happening in Europe. Some sort of confrontations in Europe is sending people more towards the African continent, and we can see that there is need to stand in one accord to ensure that while dealing with the international body, it doesn't keep Africa behind, especially as far as the continent is concerned in terms of its diplomacy, in terms of its political engagement with other countries. Just to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that you're on to your informative, discursive, and knowledge sharing program, Global Insight, proposed to you by Globus. And of course, we continue to analyze the stakes on the ground to see how feasible the U.S. Brokered peace deal between Rwanda and DR Congo is, and looking at the sustainability. And now back to you, Professor Maurice Okoli. This is a question I forwarded to maybe ask Your Excellency, which wasn't really taught. You held the presence of the U.S. in the situation in the DR Congo. In your own perspectives, perspective, what do you think are those practical measures that the U.S. government needs to put in place to ensure that Rwanda and the DRC adhere to the terms of this peace accord, especially considering the historical context which you already highlighted of broken agreements in the region?
Well, one of the hope, when you look at DRC, even without America, their resources have been carted away by multinationals, by other countries, at even a cheap price. For example, China, China is involved in DRC. They also, involved in those minerals. But China has that policy not to interfere with the internal affairs of a country. Whether people are dying, whether there is war, whether there is conflict, it doesn't concern them. What they have their eyes in the contract or what they want, and that has been what has been happening in that area. So the minerals, those vital minerals for electric cars, for battery for electric car, for electronic industry, has been exploited excessively, even without the involvement of America. My hope is that now that America is involved and that deal is tied with American interest, I know America as a country who can go out to any length to protect their own interest. I think it was a kind of smart move for DRC, to sort the assistance of America. Definitely, we don't know the content of the deal, especially when it's done out of desperation. When the M3 is about, storming the capital, as we are meant to, understand. In that process, there was a desperate situation to be able to stop that happening, because it could have been a disaster. This is a capital with millions of people. So the most important thing is that American interest is tied to that deal. So any person who will try to make that deal not succeed, I think we get the wrath of America. That's the way I see it. Or America will do anything humanly possible to make sure it doesn't happen, because that interest is tied with the access for minerals. Having said that, when you look at the situation also, it's not only America, other countries are there, the Chinese are there. I don't know the agreement between the DRC and China. One of the things they're saying that the deal is also a way of reducing dependence of DRC on China, as a single market. They kind of diversifying their partners. Looking at it also from that angle, it makes sense. Implementation, as I said before, the problem within Africa is intra and interstate rivalries. It's difficult to agree, it's difficult to negotiate, it's difficult to compromise. They can easily result to armed conflict. This you don't get it mostly in other continents. It's only in Africa. It's happening in so many African countries. As the last speaker spoke about what's happening, in the Sahel, when the coup took place there, the ECOWAS, instead of trying how to negotiate and talking for peace, they were talking for war. They were outright blatant. not negotiating, not talking. They only pipe down when they find out that the attitude did not work. And also when it's clear to everybody that the constitutional change of government in Sahel region was a change for good, better than what was there. They have to, before they start, negotiating, it was already too late. They put sanctions, economic blockade, and all this kind of thing. And that made three of these countries to leave ECOWAS. And now they're begging to come back. They say they don't want to come back because they believe the action of other members of ECOWAS is being influenced from outside, which has element of truth. You find that the neighboring countries are harboring some forces, which are detrimental to the existence of those countries. And that was what made those countries to come together and sign an agreement. Attack on any of them is attack on others in order to survive, that kind of thing. It took ECOWAS a long time. So there is this weakness in many of African organizations trying to understand issue and approach it the way that is necessary. Like DRC Rwandan problem, it has how many millions of people have to die for there have to be compromise. There must be compromise. There must be negotiation. There must be understanding. You have your own position, I have my own position. But we must come to a middle ground so that there be peace. If we had done it as African, for African solution for African problem, there wouldn't be need for America to come in. America exploited that opportunity to come in and broker peace, at the same time have access to those minerals. It's natural. The world rotates in the wheel of give and take. Any person who wants something for nothing is a dishonest person. You can't expect America to come, offer military assistance, military training, the risk of boots on the ground without getting something in return. Is not possible. The only problem we have, we don't know to what extent. But I'm optimistic that with the appearance of America in the scene, they will somehow try to use all instruments available to them to make sure that people who sign that deal, conform to the deal, because it's tied to their own interest. As you know, the mineral in question is very vital for modern economy, and they need it. You see what happened in Kyiv, where they have such a, and China is always the monopoly, and America is looking, at least to dilute that monopoly that is being exercised by China. So I believe the most vital, instrument here is that contract is tied to American interest, access to those minerals that are vital for, modern industries.
And we are staying with you, Professor Okoli. When we listen to the Foreign Minister of Rwanda partly saying that the new peace deal is, the peace deal has actually opened a turning point in the history of the Democratic Republic of Congo, or states involved in this. And on the other side, the Congolese foreign minister highlighted that it has to follow with this engagement. So when we look at the two parties, a turning point and a moment of disengagement, let's somehow see how these maybe new states will try to change the geopolitics of the region now, especially with the involvement of the United States of America. How do you think, of, in your own view, are we moving towards a new era of a clearer geopolitical dynamics in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, and why not the global Great Lake region?
Definitely, understanding the situation in the world today, where there is, serious geopolitical shift in the world. Today, China is the workshop of the whole world. In fact, they kind of swallowed the American production base. Most of the industries from America have moved to China because of the excessive profit they are making. And definitely, as they are producing, China is copying. They are doing. They do it better, cheap, you know. And the Americans have realized that this is not good for them, so they are trying to bring back those industries. But it's too late. It's not possible, because America is a electoral democracy. An attempt to bring those industry back, we increase price, and when price is increased, the electorate, they won't ask you, they will vote you out. So that they are trying everything possible in order to at least, if not stop China, but to slow that move. So it's a geopolitical move, because I know that the resources in Congo, in DRC, or that DRC has a very big contract with Chinese in mining those minerals. Now America is there, and you know America and China, they are kind of rival. Of late also, Russia was involved in that region. There was a very big warm relationship between Russia and DRC. You know, so all the forces are gathering there, but how everything will work out is left to see. It's like equation with many unknowns. There are so many things that as things go on, you start knowing them. But the world that is today, because of the tectonic change, any move any country makes is viewed as geopolitical interest. Just like new blocks are being formed, realignment, you know, things are happening. You are aware of BRICS. That BRIC formation, where people from global south, so many African countries are getting in also. They see it as a geopolitical move against American hegemony, American leadership of the world. So it's a complex, it's interplay of complex situations, which nobody is difficult to predict how it's going to unfold. But I know when America goes in a place, they don't, you know, come out very easily. They entrench very well in the place in order to protect their interests. We've not heard from China the deal, what is it meant for China? We have what heard from Russia, the deal, what is it meant for Russia, and other forces, you know. But I know there's a lot of things work behind the scene, you know. Sure. Also for Rwanda specifically, I believe most of the, action or the power of Rwanda has also Western backing, if there is element of that. So those Westerners that are somehow backing you, that they have their own interest to protect. And of course, they would like Rwanda to respect also their own interests, you know. So in negotiation, I think Rwanda will have to ask for something in return. You know, it's a complex situation of interplay of geopolitics and you know, interests of different groups. Sure. Let's see how it's going to unfold.
Indeed, the world is watching, Africa is watching, and of course, if this is a turning point, not just for the situation in the DR Congo, but also for the African continent. I think Fidel just joined in. Hi, Mr. Fidel. Okay, Lionel, you wanted to make comment on that?
I would like to add something.
Okay, go ahead.
It is important to clarify that even in time of peace, these minerals from Eastern Congo, they move through DRC's borders and through Congo's neighbors. They pass through Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, Zambia, on way to South Africa, to China, to Belgium, to Switzerland, to Australia for refining, right? So Rwanda, for me, this tells us two things. Rwanda does not need the involvement of the US to make regional economic integration work, what it needs is peace, and this is where the United States comes from, because those minerals will pass through Rwanda in time of peace and maybe even in time of war, depending on the security aspect of it. So for me, the most important question we need to ask ourselves is why the Congo has so little refining capacity in Congo itself. That's the problem that has pushed operators in Congo to export raw materials and Congo to miss out on the value addition potential that these minerals have. So the next issue will be to see if when America comes, it only does extraction, or it just moves the minerals directly to its mine, to its industries, or some of it pass through Rwanda to be refined there, and they go to the United States. Still, for me, the Congo, if it doesn't develop an adequate refining capacity, it will still miss out on most of the potential behind, or the benefits behind refining. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Lionel. And we bring you back to the underlining question. Sometimes when the ambassador was speaking, she made mention that we should face the realities now. Probably history is already non-pertaining the situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo. We are in another era, the 21st century, and with new stakes on the ground. However, Congo still remains volatile, susceptible. So in your own perspective, and with these peace efforts that we are seeing coming from the U.S., let's try to understand how intentional this peace effort is in line with, some sort of a sphere of influence between the United States of America and China, and using, probably, can we say they are using the Democratic Republic of Congo as catalyst to ensure, to prove their might of their presence in these regions for mineral needs of mineral, or is it intentionally and categorically for the peace in the region that will benefit Africans, Congolese, and the entire continent?
Is the question for me?
Sure.
Okay. One has to remember that there were many American societies mining in Congo in the 90s, and even after Kabila, the father, took power. Those have left gradually. Probably they were not making that much money. So because it was much cheaper to export to the operations to China, which was the industrial base of the world, as my colleague pointed out. It made more sense economically to do everything in China, since everything was manufactured in China. So even the refining capacity moved to China, even the mining capacity, some of it moved to China. So there are still some Western actors, Belgium, Australia, Canada, operating, and even Switzerland, because there is Glencore operating in the DRC, but much of the mining operations are run by China. So how beneficial can this be to the US? This is the question we need to ask ourselves. The United States no longer has the same industrial capacity it used to enjoy. Some of these jobs have moved to China. So for Americans, extracting minerals is a costly operation that they may not want to do themselves. They may subcontract that. Refining also may be costly because they have to keep the prices low at every level to ever be able to compete with China when it comes to making a final product. So you have to keep extracting